Remember, we talked about Lolita, a 1955 novel by Russian American novelist Vladimir Nabokov. Well, it has been adapted into film at least twice. There's two major adaptations. Um, the first one being Stanley Kubrick's adaptation in 1962, and the second one by Adrian Lyne. Contrary to popular belief, the second adaptation, which is also the colorful film, it is this erotic thriller that I personally preferred more because of not just its aesthetic, that, in my opinion, suits Nabokov's writing a bit better than Kubrick's, because, well, we all know Kubrick's specific style. I've talked about this before on this channel regarding A Clockwork Orange adaptation. But do these adaptations do any justice to the original novel? Well, let me share some of my thoughts before you watch them. Welcome to Check That Book, a special place where we get acquainted with the most disturbing books ever written, arguably. And this is one of those fun episodes where we talk about book versus movie, and, well, as you might have guessed, it's Lolita this time. One of the most controversial books of all time, and its subject matter, well, I'll put the link into the description because I've already talked about this masterpiece of literature, and we are not going to dive deeper into it. And of course, there will be no spoilers. I never do them. There's going to be no reviews, no nothing, just pure introduction and facts, like key differences, what's the fossil about, what's the style, etc. You know the drill. But for those unacquainted, we have a main character, a middle-aged man who falls victim to his false victim. Well, to a degree, yes. I mean, he falls victim to his own sick pedophilic desire for those he calls nymphets. These are girls usually aged between 9 to 14. And he becomes enamored with Dolores, whom he nicknames Lolita, and in order to remain close to her, he marries her mother. And when her mother dies, well, he assumes guardianship of the orphan and then grooms, exploits, and her. Fun story. So let's start about the tone and the style of Lolita as a novel, and let's begin with Kubrick's adaptation because, well, not only it's the first one, but it's probably the most talked about. And like I mentioned, contrary to popular belief, I think it's not really fitting to Nabokov's writing because Kubrick's adaptation uses a more comedic and restrained tone, um, diminishing the explicit aspects due to censorship at the time, obviously, but Kubrick also leans into dark humor for some reason, focusing more on the absurdity of our main character's obsession than the depths of his depravity. And sometimes it is prudent to go into this darkness with a shield of something positive. I get it, but I don't think personally that this is the case for this particular work. However, this is where Lynn's film comes into play. My apologies if I mispronounce the director's surname because, as you all know, I'm not good with pronunciations. My apologies. That adaptation, the 1997 one, I mentioned, I preferred this one over Kubrick's because it has a more psychological approach, which works great with the subject matter. It is also more sensual, emphasizing the emotional and tragic aspects of the story. This version is visually expressive and more explicit in its depiction of the main character's relationship to Lolita and his obsession. This adaptation attempts to closely follow the novel's plot and includes more scenes that explore Lolita's perspective as well. Whilst in the novel, our main character, and I'm speaking about the main character from whose perspective the story is told, which isn't Lolita, it's Humbert, and he is portrayed as this manipulative, highly cultured, very eloquent, educated man, but he's very unreliable actually, because we see his contradictions and self delusions during his narration because we follow his perspective. So, I mean, when we read the novel, he himself exposes his own ugliness that he normally hides beneath his charm. I hope I made sense. But for example, Kubrick's film, he's portrayed by James Mason very well, actually. And he appears less monstrous, more tragic even, portrayed as a simple middle aged man who's just unable to control his obsession. So I think in Kubrick's movie, he's quite softened and might even come across as sympathetic. Jeremy Irons' portrayal of the character, I think it's much closer to Nabokov's vision. Charming, but clearly disturbed and destructive. Uh, Lyne's Hubert is more visibly conflicted and tormented, with the film showing more of his self loathing and guilt, attempting to capture the disturbing complexity of Nabokov's character. I think that's a job well done. Now about Lolita. Well, in the novel, she's real. She's just a complex child caught in a horrifying situation, like many young girls are, unfortunately, and she's just another victim. But in the novel, she's very vivid. She's a bit rebellious, you know. In Kubrick's movie, Lolita is presented as more mature and flirtatious, actually, and she does look more mature, in my opinion. Whilst in the second adaptation, Lolita, she's more childlike and innocent, and there's vulnerability to her. This version of Lolita has moments that reflect her confusion and pain with this situation and with our how to say she's explored her victimhood is explored better. And I think that the second movie approaches her as this actually rather tragic figure, which she is, and dives a bit deeper into her character. Um, the second film emphasizes the damaging effects of the obsession that Lolita is a victim of. Of course, there's a lot of left out scenes in Kubrick's film purely because of the censorship of the time, and thus we don't get some certain power dynamics explored as well. And maybe that's why Kubrick attempted a more humorous approach to the film. It's just a dark satire, really. Yes, it's dark, but not as disturbing as it should have been. Both adaptations, both films, are very well shot, and I could go on and praise both film directors for their jobs. I mean, knowing the backgrounds of both, I'm not surprised that the films are well produced and they look absolutely stunning. However, yes, the first one, like I've mentioned, kind of chooses a bit different path and approach, and due to censorship. And the second one is more accurate, but also hauntingly beautiful, much like Nabokov's writing. So I recommend checking them both out, but if you want a closer, more accurate representation of what's going on in the novel, then the second film um, is the one to go with. Before we wrap this up, I need to quickly talk about the ending without really spoiling it. Well, Nabokov's ending is bleak, with our main character actually confessing to his sins and ultimately dying, showing a clear downfall without redemption. Lolita's life is portrayed as irrevocably damaged, which, well, enhances the novel's tragedy. In Kubrick's film, the ending is focused more on uh, Humbert's jealousy, I think, and his rage than his remorse. The second film, yes, this adaptation ends on a note of remorse for Humbert and depicts the irreversible impact of his actions on Lolita's life, echoing Nabokov's original tone of regret and condemnation. So, in summary, Kubrick's adaptation turns Lolita into this dark satire that um, kind of leaves out a lot of the novel's disturbing aspects. And I explained why, censorship and all at the time, but good nonetheless, just the tone is drastically different to the novel. The second version attempts to capture the emotional gravity and tragic complexity of the characters, and while still maintaining this layer of sensuality that wasn't as explicit in Nabokov's text, but it was still present. So I think the second adaptation is a slightly better job when it comes to this. So, you guys, with me so far? How are you doing? How's life? How's everything? If you like disturbing content, consider giving this video a boost in the form of an erect thumb and make sure to subscribe for more. I do a lot more things than just, introduce disturbing literature. There's also poetry recitings. Speaking of which, make sure to check out the link in the description to my own book, Misanthropically Inclined, where I share some of my thoughts on the world. No, mainly it's a poetry collection, so if you're into that, or if you're looking for some inspiration, if you're a songwriter perhaps, or if you are a composer who's looking for a songwriter, I'm here. We can pair up. Hire me. Let's do this. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching, and take care of yourselves, ladies and gents. I'll see you soon. Check out the links in the description. Bye.